could everybody go through and introduce yourselves, and we will start with filmmaker Michael.
Michael Turney. Oh,
And,
director.
and can we go to Andrea?
Wait. And can I plug Coma Cola? If you saw the movie, you'll know.
We do know. That's awesome.
Last thing. And I'm going to draw a picture while we talk. So on my wall. So just so you know. Anyway, keep going.
Thank you. All right. And Andrea, could you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Andrea Figliomeni. I played Kibby.
So I totally mispronounced your name.
Everybody does.
I apologize up front. Crystal, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Crystal Peterson, and I play Gator.
And Shelly, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Shelly Valfer, and I play Rodney.
Awesome. Thank you. And Colin, could you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Colin Brazy, and I served as the director of photography for the film.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Alex, could you introduce yourself?
Hi,
Alex Cuervo.
I am Alex Cuervo, and I am the composer.
Let's go ahead and dig into this because I was so stoked that Chris tapped me to preview Video Vision and just talk to you guys. You know, I went in blind. I was like, I'm not going to look anything up. He's kind of given me an overview, and let me just see this for myself. And I haven't seen anything quite like this in independent film in years. And I want to know, Michael, where did this idea come from? Where did this stem from in your writing process?
Let's see. Where did it come from? Well, I guess I was just trying to come up with something that had to do with like having a kind of a techno horror villain. I don't know. Have there been many of those? Can't even really think of any. I think of like Brain Scan. Right.
You know, stuff like that from the 90s. So this is what that evoked in me.
But I wanted to have something that was like very iconic, something that could be like an action figure type character, like an 80s throwback character, but put it into a kind of like art house drama and, romance, and see if that would work without it feeling like two separate movies. And I think we nailed it.
You did. Definitely.
With the help of Alex. Without the music, it makes no sense. So
did your influence or was your acting an influence on how
Definitely.
You made this film? Like your time as an actor?
Yeah, I think that I think it influenced me. My time as an actor influenced me not to be an actor. I think I just enjoy being behind the camera much more. I like acting. I like acting as an art form, but I don't want to perform. I don't like the performance part of it, being in front of a camera, as you can see, or in front of people and stuff. So I actually, as a director, I get to act through the actors and not have to perform myself. So I get to act without acting. It's a win-win for me.
Andrea and Crystal, could you talk about your relationship, how you guys interacted on set and offset, like the building the chemistry together, and then like, are you friends now? Like, are you hanging out? You guys work together so well. Like on screen, it's on it. The chemistry is there.
Thank you. I guess I'll start a little bit, unless you want to jump in.
No, go for it.
We kind of were a little late with filming. Like we were supposed to film, I forget what month we were supposed to film, but it was like a couple months later that we actually started filming. And I think that really helped build a relationship just like outside of Kibby and Gator, between like Andrea and I, as just like people, and getting to know each other, and also getting to know Michael as the director. And we also met up with Colin to like talk about scenes and how it would look. So I think that just like built our relationship already, kind of getting to know each other. And then of course, during the filming, we got to know each other a lot more. And I think just our chemistry worked out like well in general. Like I think we just clicked on a natural out of the cast relationship, and it just got stronger during the filming. I felt like we really trusted each other during the filming, and I think that helped a lot.
We had a few rehearsals beforehand, which I think helped to just get to know each other and get more comfortable with each other. And then it just kind of came down to, I mean, Crystal's a cool person, which helps. So we were able to just work together as actors. And I think I really loved working with Crystal as an actor, which helped. We bonded over that outside of set and everything. So it was a good experience, and I'm glad it came across well.
It really does. I absolutely, like I said, this was a film that took me by surprise and how much I really, really enjoyed it. I want
Hey,
to
Liz,
ask,
Liz,
sure.
can I ask you a question? So, see how good of actors they are? They hated me the whole time. It was a horrible experience. No, I'm just kidding. No, I wanted to ask if you thought of any movies that it reminded you of, because
Well,
I
I
couldn't
was
think of
going to
myself.
go into that eventually in this interview because, I mean, Videodrome obviously has to have been some sort of influence for you body horror wise, but with, video to analog, like analog and seeping into your body, like that had to have been an influence. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I mean, Cronenberg for sure. Videodrome was definitely a movie I loved as a kid. Do you remember? I don't know if you guys would know Cinefantastique. Alex would know this. It was a magazine like Fangoria, but it was like for, and so I remember seeing images of Videodrome back then and just loving it. And then it wasn't until I saw the movie as, an adult that I realized how he predicted our relationship with technology. And it was just, it was, yeah, I mean, obviously Cronenberg influences all of us, but it's, I don't consider Videovision anything really like Videodrome other than, the influences of body horror and stuff. But yeah, I love Videodrome for sure. No
Were
question.
there any
And
other films though that I'm missing? Like we mentioned before, Brain Scan is one that comes to mind as well.
Well, since the movie is a lot about the relationship, I think I just was influenced more like by John Hughes films and like, like a War Games. Yeah, I love War Games, things like that. Just the relationship between, the characters, since there was a lot of that in this movie. In terms of like the, Max Headroom, I was a big fan of Max Headroom as a kid. So it was like trying to do like a demented version of Max Headroom, as Dr. Analog. Again, a lot of this is a relationship drama. So it had to do with like, movies that I just appreciated, from that era.
For me, outside of the horror and science fiction aspects of it, I was very attracted to the kind of almost mumblecore sort of banter between the characters. I found it right away, right off the bat, the first time I saw the film. I found it like instantly very endearing. Just all of the sarcastic banter between everybody I thought was really well done. It was beautifully executed by everyone, but I thought it was really well written.
Agreed. I love the dialogue.
I love you, Alex. I love you, Alex. Thank you.
The dialogue is a lot of what makes this film, and it's very dialogue heavy. And Shelley has a lot to do with the humor that comes through in the dialogue. Shelley, did you channel any pop culture characters or any like personalities to play this role of Rodney?
Well, no, I can't think of anybody that I channeled, but I think the casting is so important. So I give Michael credit because he stuck with me. We had some difficulties in the beginning about my acting in this film, and he kept sticking with me because he felt like I gave that quality to the character that he was going for. And I feel like it really came through. It's one of the few films I can watch where I don't cringe watching myself on screen.
That's
I
awesome.
know that feeling.
Yeah, I definitely, Shelley from the get-go, I definitely wanted to work with him and bring that kind of like, I wanted to like bring a little, being born and raised in New York City, I wanted to bring a little bit of the New York kind of old school vibe of what the city used to be, which is why Videovision looks the way it does, and just kind of like that era of New York and stuff. And Shelley did that, besides just being an awesome actor. I'm so happy with this this cast. I can't
I
tell
mean,
you.
and I was going to say my background goes with it because I was a computer nerd as a kid.
Oh,
and
wow.
so when I walked into that shop that we used on location, I felt right at home. I had all that equipment and stuff like, oh man, look at those old video players and audio and turntables and stuff. I really felt right at home there.
And I do want to give a shout out to Analogic, which is the place that we used for Video Vision. It still exists, although it's one of the last of its kind in New York City with all that equipment and stuff like that. Yeah. So we lucked out finding
run this by actually people that are not familiar with New York. This is a real shop.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think we could have not, No, go ahead, Sean.
Well, just a little anecdote. I worked for a band, and the guitar player is always looking for tubes that are very hard to come by because they don't make them anymore for his amplifier. And I saw a box of tubes up on a top shelf while I was there, and I told him about it, and we ended up buying them, and he's like so pleased these are the tubes he wanted that he couldn't get anywhere else.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a real shame that era and all those, because they might end up closing because they can't teach people how to like fix those things anymore. So eventually all those analog devices are just kind of gonna fall apart. But we got to capture it in the movie. So I'm happy about that. And Colin was the one to kind of like choose that one of the places that we looked at. We couldn't really find the right one. And then,
yeah, that place is definitely a blessing. Once we found it and discovered it and was able to scout it, because we had looked at, probably, 4 or 5 different places that we thought might work for the Video Vision placement. That was, by far the best place that we ran into. The amount of clutter and machinery and everything that was involved there was pretty insane. We honestly were moving stuff out of there so that we were able to shoot. That wasn't a production design or anything. That's just like how we found the place. And every day we were having to move stuff like in and out of there just to afford us the space to fit our, modest, camera and lighting packages like into the location.
I noticed so correct me if I'm wrong, Colin, while I've got you talking. Were you inspired by De Palma at all with any of these cuts?
De Palma is a favorite of mine. As far as some of the visual approach, you brought up Videodrome earlier, which was not only was an influence on this film, at least from a visual standpoint and sort of an approach, thematic approach standpoint. And it's also just one of my favorite movies of all time. So it's one that I go back to time and time again. So I've probably seen it probably more than almost any movie that I've seen in my life. So
wow.
So when Michael sent me this script, I was like, oh, this is right up my alley. But going back to De Palma, I don't know if there was any specific De Palma films that were heavily influencing the visual approach, or I don't know, maybe editorially, maybe Mike could speak on that. But as far as the visual approach, obviously Cronenberg. I know we looked at a lot of Wes Craven films too, a lot of other like 80s horror and like 80s sci-fi stuff like that, for sure.
Alex, I'm gonna bring it back to you.
Okay.
For music, wow. So I'm familiar with you with Cannibal Mukbang.
Okay. And
so once I heard your score, I dug a lot deeper into your music, and I was like, wow, this guy's bad. Excuse me, Chris, badass. And I want to know, in writing the music for this film, did you were you going scene by scene and writing the music, or were you writing music that inspired you as to what you thought, I know you mentioned that you already, you knew the dialogue, you knew that it was dialogue heavy.
Yeah.
Did you go scene by scene?
We did. Yeah. Mike and I spotted the whole film ahead of me writing a single note of music. I don't think I did any demos ahead of us working. He just listened to a lot of stuff that I had. He'd been familiar with some of my previous films. and we spotted the whole thing and just decided, when the music comes in, when it comes out, what it needs to do, between point A and point B. And then I would go off and work that, and we would see what was working, and I would go back and tweak it as needed, to fulfill sort of the dramatic purpose of the moment. But yeah, everything was written to picture. I guess there's a couple exceptions, like the music playing in the bar when they're on a date that's like a band, an old recording from a band I was in.
Wow.
Some of that was pre-existing, but all of the score like that happens in the movie was written for those moments, like exactly as you see them, as you hear them.
Also, I want to throw in that the band that plays, that's Gator's dad's band, that's breaking computers and stuff, called Delete. That's my band. And we're getting back together because we hate technology and we break computers on stage and everything. So that's a real band. So there you go.
That's awesome. That's even better. Like, that makes it all even better. With the body horror effects in this film, how were those, like the traces, like the computer chip traces and stuff? How was that created?
So, I think the goal was to do like kind of small effects, but really well, as opposed to doing like big effects kind of badly. So,
which is greatly appreciated because the effects are wonderful in this film.
Well, I was going to say, like, I can write whatever I want. I tried to get, do unique things that you've never seen before, whatever. The way Dr. Analog kills people is not, nobody's ever done that kind of thing. But I can't do that without like great special effects people, So I want to give a shout out to Nick and Alex from Feast Effects, who did the practical effects, and then Brandon and Malcolm, who did the VFX from Scarecrow Arts. And they killed it. I mean, it's like, it could have been done so poorly, and it was just done perfectly. And also Mario Barraza, who did the animation for the fake 80s cartoon Gummy Puss. And then he did the traces. He animated the traces, but even after it was animated, they had to composite it so it actually looked like it was going on skin and stuff. So there's subtle things that, sometimes like compositing of just like invisible effects, things you take away or you don't notice and stuff. It's like, you have to do that right and stuff. And for the budget, we had no budget really. So we just had to like figure out how to creatively do things and stuff. And they did it. They were awesome. One last person, Alana Rose, who applied the Dr. Analog stuff to Hunter, and she worked on Terrifier too and stuff, and she's amazing. So,
what inspired the look of Dr. Analog, like the physical look of him and the logo itself?
Pretty much like, a Max Headroom, a kind of punk rock. There's a band called the Screamers from the 80s that I was really into, that, that kind of aesthetic, a new wave kind of look with the spiky hair, whatever. I'm still working on the logo here, drawn in here. So it's that. And then, I guess kind of, I don't know. Was there something else, Colin, maybe that we thought? I'm trying to think. I think that was it. I mean, it was just kind of like trying to do a really iconic 80s looking VHS kind of villain, that would, instead of coming out of the TV, he comes out of the VCR, just playing with that idea. I'm trying to think if there was, and then the logo, I just wanted something really iconic that you'd see on a skateboard or something, just something, the Screamers have a logo like that, or the Misfits or something cool for t-shirts. I'm from the 80s, as Crystal knows. So I just wanted to have iconic stuff, so there you go.
I wanted to tell Crystal too, thank you, since you've just mentioned her, thank you for the transgender representation on this film. I am the mother of a transgender child, and that means a lot to have representation in films, especially in cool films that are accessible like this. Like, really, you did an amazing job.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we wanted to like represent something a little more fitting for today, like something a little bit more relevant, and just include, so people can feel like they feel included and also see themselves on a screen, and have like important topics talked about in like a more casual way, so it's not so like scary or different to talk about.
Right.
And
Like this
we
is
didn't want to
not
make
like
it
part of the film. Like it didn't take nothing takes you out or makes you think twice. Like you were just you were just Gator.
right. And that's, I feel like, what we wanted to like emphasize is that the movie isn't about a trans character. Gator just so happens to be trans. And it's just like, he's just like any other guy, you know, he's just like any other character. It didn't have to be like so focused on the trans part, but it was like also we wanted to make it known that like these topics are important without taking away that like being trans isn't necessarily you're so different from everyone else.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the whole storyline.
Yeah.
It's just
And actually, that speaks to the movie and just how everything in the movie is about transition. Like time becomes a big issue in the movie about Nietzsche, you know, talking about time as a flat circle and stuff. So Dr. Analog's journey transition from the past to the present, and then obviously analog to digital, VHS to digital, that transition of formats and stuff. And then, of course, Gator's character. And I think Kibby's character kind of is so stagnant when we meet her, and like all the transitional elements kind of pull her through her transition and stuff. So it's you know, and that's the type of thing that you don't really totally understand when you're first writing it, and you become aware of the connections afterward and stuff. Yeah, they killed it. They killed it. Everybody killed it. Yeah. So Liz, can I ask, your child what did they think? Did they see it?
My child loved it. Yeah. My child is 15, going on 30. And I said, "Hey, you want to watch the screener with me? Because you know, I've got to interview these folks, and I really want to watch this." And sure, okay. So of course, I had no idea, and like just going into it, we were just like, "Wow!" Like this is unheard of, because you just don't come across like I said, transgender representation in hardly anything, but especially like body horror film. Okay. Thank you.
Well, you know, it's funny too, because there's that scene that I don't want to, well, I guess for this Q&A, people have already seen the movie, but the scene where she's kind of ripping off her face, and it's like, that's a thing that we didn't put on paper. That wasn't part of the script. That was something, without getting into it, was effect. We were going to do a different effect. We ended up doing that effect, which ended up being a lot cooler anyway. And it kind of represents what she's going through, but it wasn't something that we did on purpose. You know what I mean? So it's like, sometimes those things just happen that you're just like, wow, that's really cool. So
that parallel in particular wasn't on purpose.
No, it just kind of fell into place. Yeah, it completely, I was just at the time we were doing it, I was just like, we had this extra effect, this entire face. And I was just like, you know, Crystal, just rip it off your face. And then even in post, we changed it up. We did all the effect stuff, because at the time it was just blood and stuff. But yeah, it was really cool. So, you know, a lot of the ending was all kind of in the editing. It was just, I didn't exactly know where I was going, and there's all that back and forth, and all these, the vaporwave sequence wasn't in the script originally, and that plays a part of it now. And so, you know, it's interesting, the evolution of a film like this, you know, and just kind of trying to put so many different elements into one thing, but still kind of have it feel, you know, cohesive and just part of the same film and everything.
The vaporwave animation was unreal. Who did that? That was unreal.
Yeah, that was Scarecrow Arts, Brandon and Malcolm. They just, I forget how that even kind of came about, because you know, again, like I said, I didn't have, I'm falling apart here. By the way, I also want to say, in the first scene, when Kibby answers the phone, is like Video Vision, on her monitor, this is a little Easter egg, on her monitor is the vaporwave sequence. So you would only know that, you know, if you're paying attention. So those kinds of things are fun to figure out too. It's like when we were doing post, and it's like, what can we put on the screens? Because nothing was on the screens when we shot it. So we had to put all that stuff afterward. And it was awesome. It was like, oh, cool. That's so awesome. So yeah, I'm finishing up this drawing.
Well, I want to wrap this with asking you guys. So I'm a VHS collector, and I want to know who in this group is a VHS fan, or do you have a VHS that you treasure?
Crystal can't answer this.
Not true.
you have VHS?
I'm a 99 baby, so yeah, that sounds kind of crazy, but as hard it is to believe, I did grow up before social media. I had a good chunk of my life where I didn't have social media. We still had VHS. Like I remember when MySpace was around, when it came about. Like Andrea and I were a good age before it went kind of like really Gen Z. So yes, I had some VHS, Michael. Thank you so much. Maybe I didn't have 80s movies, but I had all the like Disney,
I was gonna say.
Yeah, like that's definitely in my brain,
Crystal, did you have Ninja Turtles?
I did. I love Ninja Turtles. One of my favorite comics is Ninja Turtles, and I thought that was crazy when you casted me, because then obviously I looked up who you were and then realized you were in the movie, which felt really great connection to me.
Well, what's funny is like I haven't acted. I mean, that movie was like 35 years ago, right? So like it's older than these people are alive. So it's like it's just weird that I'll be probably if I'm known for anything, it's going to be for the stuff I did on camera. But it's like I've been running away from the camera ever since. But I mean, I was 14 when I shot that or something. I'm going to be 50 this year, so it's just crazy how time flies. But
how does it feel to be a NECA character?
I know that's crazy.
Figure. As soon as they said your name attached to this, I was like, I know exactly who that is. My husband has an entire wall of Casey Jones figures. Like we are a Ninja Turtles family.
Wow. Well, it's amazing when they asked me to do that. But I will say this: a world where there is no Dr. Analog action figure, but there's a Danny action figure. I don't want to live in that world. So I hope they make a Dr. Analog.
I hope they do too. I'd buy it in a heartbeat.
Thank you. Anyway, and the last thing I just want to, I don't know. You wrap it up, Liz.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that this is meant as a trilogy, whether or not we ever do the other movies or not. And because the way it ends, it obviously implies there's more to come and stuff. So if we ever do it, I just want to tell any investors that the second movie, which has already been written, is supposed to be a prequel of Dr. Analog's story in 1983, how he becomes who he is. And then the third movie is a sequel to this one, which starts where this one ends and is kind of more the action bloodfest that maybe people want this one to be. But I like the Kibby story, Dr. Analog story, and then they come together to battle it out. So anybody who has money.
The world needed a romantic analog to video or analog to digital body horror film. Like Liz, we needed this.
Romanalog.
Holy hell. It's perfect.
Analogology.
I gotta ask, did y'all improv any of that sequence in the film, the analogology? Because that scene was beautiful.
It was.
We didn't know, like, what was written on paper was kind of confusing. So we kind of, I mean, the analogology part, obviously Michael wrote, but we it was like words getting it out. So it was a process making it what it was.
I smile every time that goes by.
But what's even crazier about that scene is that it ended up having to be ADR'd because so they had to reduplicate that improv basically. But it came out well.
That part was so difficult. I was so frustrated. I couldn't get the analogology part at the end.
Yeah, I mean, we cut out a lot of scenes of dialogue and stuff, but I think that it's just so much fun to watch actors act. That's what I really enjoy, and just in terms of improv moments, the moment when Andrea laughs and just cracks up in bed, that was totally not expected, and it's just such a real moment. I like. So yeah.
I hope you put those outtakes to special features in the physical media for this.
Yeah, and we probably have some scenes we can put in and stuff, but yeah. So, but thank you, Liz. I want to say Chris Dortch, who selected the film, Thank you so much. And his dad, this festival is amazing. I'm so happy to be being the opening night film and being selected and kind of premiering at this festival. And I also just want to say that, it's like for such a different type of film, you need to find advocates and people who get it. And it's like Chris definitely understands it. And, it's just, I promise maybe the next film I'll make a more traditional horror film, but this one I kind of wanted to like,
we don't need those. We need this.
Cool.
This is what we needed.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz.
Well, thank you. And thank you all for being here. And we will go ahead and head out. Don't miss Video Vision.